Tales from the Whistling Pixie, written as told by Fallon Loreseeker. The Goblin Wars. The four headed out from the war camp towards the ruins of Shadeglin. Moving through its empty streets, the village was not very big, only a dozen or so buildings, and most of those had been burned to husks, leaving just a couple still standing intact. They picked their way past the wreckage and started up the path toward the mine. This was no prosperous gold or silver vein. It was a humble iron mine, which was likely why the goblins had made their warrens here. They made their way up the steepening path. The climb was eased by stairs cut into the ground beside the wooden planks laid for carts hauling ore down to the village. To the left, a cascade of broken tailings and spoil spilled down the slope. To the right, a set of falls splashed a cooling mist over their sweat-covered foreheads. They came at last to a wide, flat area before the mine entrance. The air still carried a faint bite of old coal smoke and hot metal, though the smelters beneath the covered awning sat cold and silent. On one side stood a large clearing for breaking stone, now abandoned, with stacks of timber leaning unused against a low fence. On the other side sat a couple of buildings, a foreman's shack set slightly apart, the only one with a proper door, empty and still. A half a dozen mail-clad knights sat around the buildings instead of the usual miners, eyeing the newcomers as they passed. Near the entrance hung a heavy iron bell on a wooden frame, its rope frayed, whether from disuse or recent urgent use. It was hard to say. Derek gave a wave and a nod as they went by, heading for the entrance where two more armored men stood with spears and shield in hand. Eldon stepped up first. "Squire Yellen." "Squire Doris," he said with a slight nod. They responded by slapping spear and shield against their armor-clad chests in unison. "Sir Eldon," they said together. "What news?" the older knight asked. Squire Doris relaxed slightly. "All quiet, sir. We haven't heard a peep from them since the dwarves came running out with their tails between their legs," he said, a touch of mirth in his tone. The squire beside him chuckled. Helmet leaned around Oric and gave the two young men a harsh look. Their smiles dropped instantly and they straightened back to attention. "No offense," Squire Yellen said quickly, sliding him a sideways look of apology. Helmet broke into a wide grin. "None taken, lads. They only be sappers, nae warriors, contrary to what people think. No old dwarves can fight well, nae very good anyways." The two young squires relaxed and stepped aside to let them pass. The knights and the dwarf filed into the entrance. Eldon took a torch from the wall, as did Oric, lighting them both from one already burning beside the entrance. Derek set his shield against the wall for a moment and unstrapped his helm from his belt. "Helmet, take point. Order it. You got rear." The other two knights followed suit, settling their own helmets into place. The dwarf looked up at the three of them and chuckled. "They just be goblins, lads." All three stopped and looked at him. "Yeah," Eldon said, "but their maces will crush your skull all the same." "Aye," Oric added. Derek bent and picked up his shield. "Unlike some, we use our heads for more than just a place to put artwork," he said, giving Helmet a sly smile. All three knights burst into laughter, and after a few moments the dwarf joined them. Helmet took his place 10 paces ahead of the rest. His eyesight, his size, and his weapons were all made for the dark and close quarters, and he had little trouble seeing in the dimly lit passage. His head shifted side to side as he listened, his fists with their bladed gauntlets held close to his chest, ready as a viper coiled to strike. The other three followed behind. "So, Helmet, what ye be doing once this nonsense is over?" Oric asked from the back. Without slowing, Helmet said, "Me was thinking about staying around Torleas, maybe get a job as a smith or something." "So, you're a smith?" Eldon asked, following close behind the dwarf. Helmet slowed and looked back over his shoulder. "Well, yeah, but we got a cousin living there. Well, he be a smith. Thought maybe he could teach me or something." He turned his attention back to where they were headed. "Take no offense, my dwarven friend, but I don't think smithing is for you," Derek said, keeping pace alongside Eldon. The dwarf stopped and looked back at him, a slight perturbed look crossing his face. "Wait, you be thinking me had no talent? Me arm is as strong as any smith's." Derek held up his empty hand in surrender. "No, my friend. I believe you have great talent. No one can kill goblins like you. I'm just saying, I don't think you'd like it. You're addicted to excitement, my friend. And hammering a hunk of iron into a horseshoe isn't going to satisfy that addiction," he said with a warm smile. Helmet pondered that for a moment, then his face broke into a grin. "He'd probably be right. My cousin is kinda dull." He turned back and continued down the passage. "Still, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm kinda done with fighting. For a while," he said, a tinge of sadness creeping into his voice. Oric snickered. "You be done with fighting? Believe it when me sees it." The dwarf didn't look back. "Anyway, guess we'll see. But first, we be needing to take care of these little buggers." They came to their first intersection. Helmet looked back over his shoulder. "Which way?" Eldon looked to Derek, then to Oric. Derek returned a puzzled look before glancing at Oric, who only shrugged. Eldon looked back at the dwarf. "Honestly, I don't know. They did not tell us where we were going, only that the sappers had dug into a new warren." He glanced once more at the other two, and both merely shrugged in response. The three men caught up to the dwarf, each peering down a different passage. "Well, Sir Christopher said the new warren was where the dwarves were tunneling to seal off the goblins' access. I suppose we should start there," Eldon said, looking from one man to the next, before settling on the dwarf. Helmet nodded. "Then we need to be heading down a level. That be where them pesky buggers came from." He continued forward without waiting for a response. The three men followed. Helmet looked back over his shoulder. "So, what ye lads going to do after all this?" he asked, not slowing to wait for their replies. Eldon answered first. "Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get my clothes pressed and my armor polished," he said with a wide smile. Helmet stopped and turned back to him. "So, you're telling me the first thing you want to do is get your clothes cleaned? No woman, no wondrous meal, not even a beer. You want to get your clothes pressed." He shook his head, turned, and started back down the passage. Over his shoulder, he called to the other two. "Please tell me you got something better to do than that." Derek laughed. "Sounds about right. I, for one, definitely want a good meal. And just to be back in the city. But I suppose after that, life will be pretty much the same." live in the Tower of the Grey until we're needed elsewhere. He turned to Oric. You? Oric shrugged. Don't rightly know. Maybe go to a tavern and have a ale, or don't really know. As long as you have me brothers by my side, it matters not. He gave them a wide smile. Well pressed closed. Fine meals and ale are going to have to wait. First, we need to deal with the goblins, Eldon said, picking up his pace. The other two fell into step. Helmet held up a bladed hand for them to stop. He cocked his head from side to side, listening. You hear that? He asked. The others cocked their heads as well, and after a few moments, Derek responded, No, I don't hear a thing past the popping and crackling of torches. Me neither, Eldon said. Oric just shrugged. Helmet stood there for a moment longer. Me must be hearing things. No matter. The leaf is just down that way and around the corner. He started walking again, and the others fell in behind him. It didn't take them long to reach the lift. The three men stopped and stared at the rickety contraption. Helmet jumped right on and looked back at them. Well, he said, motioning with one arm for them to join him. Derek, Eldon, and Oric exchanged glances. After you, Derek said with a wave toward the lift. No, after you, Eldon said, with a wave of his own. Oric, Derek said, looking to the big man. Oh, after you. Oric said with a small bow. Age before beauty. He finished the line with a flamboyant flourish of his hand. Would ye lot just get on the damned thing? Helmet growled. The other three exchanged looks, then said in unison with mock pouts. Fine. Ye lot are worse than a bunch of beardless children, Helmet said, shaking his head. The three men started for the platform, then stopped at the dwarf's word. Children, Derek said in mock pain, hand pressed to his chest. Beardless, Oric added, rubbing a hand over his own chin. One day me beard will be longer than yours. Eldon couldn't resist adding his own words. At least we are not running around with bared, tattooed heads like some rebellious teenager. Helmet just scowled at them. Just get on the damn thing.